Exploration of space.
I'm actually out here to share something I have never shared before in my career having to do with this book. When I first put this book together, I wanted to actually pay tribute to my family, who was incredibly patient during the time I was working on the book. And at that time, I'm not going to pick out anybody, but the editor at the time of the AAA says, "No, you can't do that." He gave me his reasons why I couldn't do that, and I couldn't put it up front, and that just really angered me. So, but if you ever look at the top of the rocket here, you're not going to be able to see it on the screen. But if you actually look close enough, written sideways is actually the name of my kid. And so it's sort of my trademark. There's been 4 editions of this book that have come out. In every edition, I've hidden the names of my kids somewhere. Right. For those who have followed Richard Branson would know about him, he's an adventurer. He loves new ideas. He loves things that are different. Here's a picture of a global flyer. It was the first aircraft to fly sort of solo, nonstop around the world. There was a company at the time that he had contracted to actually build this aircraft called Scale Composites. And while a couple of his key people were out in Mojave seeing the progress of how this thing was going, they noticed there was some other really cool stuff happening, and one of the guys at Scale said, "I'll tell you what, we'll show you something that's really cool going on." And let him look behind the curtain, and sure enough, what was going on behind the curtain at that time was Spaceship One. Wow. And that's where the whole thing actually started from. They got on the phone and said, "Hey Richard, we saw something really cool. This is something you really might be interested in." The key thing in Burt Rutan's design is this idea of what we call feathering. This is a picture of it, where the wing itself actually bends. So if you've ever played badminton, the shuttlecock, no matter how you hit it, it always has that ballpark coming down first, because the aerodynamics are such that it's always going to take that orientation. The same thing with the spaceship. No matter what kind of issues you get into, no matter what kind of attitude, it's always going to want to come back in a very stable configuration. It also has the advantages by the way it comes in, it actually dissipates the heat among the underbelly of the spaceship instead of any sort of sharp leading edges. This made it actually much simpler with regards to the thermal protection system. It made composites very viable in its design, and we don't actually have to use exotic material. This last year has been super exciting for us. We've done a number of what's called glide flights, where the White Knight goes up and drops the spaceship and it comes in and lands. And so we've kind of proven that aerodynamically, the design is pretty sound for coming in for landings. But the big test we always knew we had is when we finally turned on the rocket, how well will it perform going from subsonic into supersonic. This year we've done the first of our 2 rocket-powered flights. Interesting enough, this is, as someone told me, this is the first privately funded aircraft to go supersonic since the Concorde. Needless to say, these are highly sought-after positions. When we've posted it, typically we'll get 500 applications for one slot. So it's a pretty exciting job. I also want to tell you about a second product that we're looking at now that we announced in Farnborough. There's a picture of Richard holding a subscale version of it. But the idea is we take the spaceship off of the White Knight, and in its place we build a small launch vehicle capable of putting small payloads into space. So right now it's a part of the market no one's really serving particularly well. We're hoping to introduce a product that's going to be less than $10 million a launch, and therefore we think it's going to be aligned nicely with a lot of startup companies like Skybox. Right now is signed up to fly with us, which is one of these companies is raising a lot of money in Silicon Valley. In fact, they just launched this week, I think, on Soyuz for their demo spacecraft. But they want to put up a constellation of satellites, and so they need sort of that dedicated service that we think we can provide. Other areas that we're going into, by this chart here, we have a contract with NASA to use our spaceship to fly research payloads. And we actually there's a cutaway version, but we have it designed that we can fly the equivalent of what's called mid-deck lockers, things that used to fly on the space shuttle. We're also working with NASA, hopefully, that someday they'll allow their own civil servants and principal investigators to fly with their experiments. So it's not just their payloads going up, but you'd actually have the scientists sharing that experience. We also, to try to have everyone participate, which we think is going to be a fantastic activity, we just signed a contract with Mark Burnett. He's the producer of Survivor. He wants to do a reality TV show using our spaceship. So it's going to be, once we get into commercial operations, this should follow shortly, and NBC has agreed to air it. We also just signed a contract about a week ago with NBC for exclusive rights and insights into our initial launches. So at least the morning of the first commercial launch, they got a 3-hour special on the Today Show as Richard Branson flies into space.
Exploration of space.